and welcome back to Health Source of Ohio's More Than Medicine podcast. I'm your host, Jen Patrick, the Community Relations Director here at Health Source. And today you'll be hearing from us about Men's Health Month. But first, I do have a little bit of a confession to make. When we first planned out this episode, we had great content from various clinicians here at Health Source of Ohio. But on an error on my part, we did lose some of that audio. So I greatly apologize. We had some wonderful presenters, some of our residents out of our New Richmond office from the Wright Center. We hope that they'll be creating those programs or those presentations for you again, and we can bring those to you one at a time throughout the rest of this month. It is, of course, Men's Health Month. So let's celebrate the entire month, raise awareness the entire month. But I don't think you'll be disappointed in the content we are able to bring you this month. So I'm happy to say that we were able to sit down with Dr. Michael Brunner, who is the clinical psychologist and integrated behavioral health program coordinator here at Health Source of Ohio. And what that means is he is actually a clinician out of our Loveland office and oversees a team that can address mental health issues right here at Health Source. He can explain the program in far greater detail, and we'll get into that in just a minute.
Have you heard about Health Source of Ohio? We serve 8 counties in Ohio. We're a National Quality Award recipient. We offer family practice, pediatrics, dental, vision, OBGYN, and behavioral health services. We also offer special services such as mobile dental, school-based health, care management, and outreach and enrollment. We're accepting new patients now, and we take most insurance plans. Learn more at healthsourceofohio.org.
All right, Dr. Brunner, can you just tell me your name and your title and kind of what your role here is at Health Source?
Sure, yeah. I'm Dr. Mike Brunner. I'm a psychologist. My title here is PCBH Program Manager. PCBH stands for Primary Care Behavioral Health. In my clinical role, I help out the medical providers with their patients on anything related to health. So certainly mental health, like you'd expect, but also medical conditions, healthy behaviors, et cetera. And then kind of in addition to that, I have a leadership role where I'm working to build out this model of integrated care, behavioral health, medical in the clinic together across Health Source. So.
Awesome. So can you tell us maybe a little more about what your day looks like here at Health Source?
Sure. So I am doing a combination of in-person visits and telehealth visits. My day starts with reviewing the schedules of the primary care providers in the office, looking for anything they might need my help with. And then I try to huddle with each of them and let them know anything that jumps out at me. I have patients that are pre-scheduled on any given day that I'm going to be following up with, or that maybe a provider from another office has sent my way. And again, that could be for all kinds of different concerns. I will say mental health is definitely a lot more right now than the medical for me since COVID's hit. And then in between, at any given time, I may get a message from one of the primary care providers, hey, are you available? And so a big part of our job doing this integrated care is that we're sort of like on call for the primary care providers. Any given time, if they've identified a need in that exam room with a patient, ideally, I'm able to go pretty much right then and help that patient rather than, doing the more traditional, scheduled out, doing an intake, all that jazz. Instead, hopefully in, a 20, 30-minute visit, we're doing all that and coming up with a little plan to get them going right then and there.
That is really awesome. Mm-hmm. And I think very unique to community health centers.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about why that's important, why it's so important to get folks in right then and not kind of schedule out?
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, accessibility is a really, really important part of this model. The vast majority of people that are looking for help with, we'll just stick with mental health concerns for now. It's hard for them to get it, especially when they need it. They've got to figure out, where they can go, who will take their insurance. They'll have to wait for a long time, who knows if they'll even be interested by the time that day actually comes. Those people are able to kind of potentially get in and see me within 20 minutes of deciding they need that help and just letting their primary care provider know. In addition to that, there are tons of people that need that kind of help and never really go looking for it. But if it's offered to them, they'll take it in a heartbeat. Another big element of it is just being here in the primary care office. There's just it helps with that mental health stigma that everyone kind of knows is a thing, kind of all over the place. There's a big difference between, just seeing the BHC, behavioral health consultants, my kind of clinical title, and having to go see a therapist, and go to that different office and all that kind of stuff.
That is awesome. And you mentioned the stigma. I think stigma is something that mental health stigma is something very prominent in the communities that we serve, in that
absolutely.
rural community. But as we kind of raise awareness for Men's Health Month, is that stigma, do you find that stigma is kind of more predominant in males than females?
I would say probably, yeah. It's just, and again, these are all those stereotypes, right? So none of this is kind of always true or anything like that. But, we kind of all have that idea that women it's more like socially acceptable to kind of talk about your feelings and to be more emotionally vulnerable and things like that. And whereas the guys, the stereotype there is that we have to kind of be manly and tough all the time. And, So yeah, long story short, I think it probably is more predominant in men.
If you could share any words of wisdom with our male patient base, male patient population, what might that be?
I think really just kind of that acknowledgement that, and it's in our culture all around. It's not even specific to men or women or anything. But we were all kind of taught without ever really realizing it, without anyone ever meaning to teach us, that we're just supposed to be fine all the time. And if we're ever not, if we don't feel good, that's a problem. And you need to kind of get rid of those feelings. And so inevitably when that happens, and you try to do so, you can't get rid of it. And then you think there's something wrong with you. Now add to that, we're talking about Men's Health Month here. So add to that additional kind of pressure of, oh, I'm supposed to be the strong, tough guy that isn't allowed to be worried about anything or sad or embarrassed or, any of that kind of thing. Angry is about the only kind of negative quote feeling we're allowed to have, right? At least again, that's the stereotype. That's just not how it works. All of us struggle. Every human struggles, whether we want to kind of present that or not. It's normal to struggle when bad things are happening. And that's man, woman, every human, regardless of how you identify. That's just how we all are. That's humans. It's just that it is normal, basically. I don't know. I feel like that's pretty simple, but that's really the most important thing I would say.
Yep. I think that's a great reminder. We are all human, and I think at least me personally, I ebb and flow through some of these situations where I need probably a little more support. And I think that's what makes the integrated program so helpful, because I find when I am not able to focus, make my mental health a priority, other things kind of start to wane as well. So I might not eat as healthy, I might not be as active.
Yes.
So what are some of the things that putting mental health in kind of the forefront of your mind, how does that contribute to your overall health?
100%. I mean, exactly the way that you said, all of these things are interrelated. Health is health is health. The simplest stress can lead you to, like you said, skip a meal or have a little bit of trouble sleeping that night, which makes you a little more tired the next day, which makes you a little more stressed because you can't keep up with things, a little bit worse. Again, maybe you skip out on your walk to kind of catch up on that job, that work you were doing, or to get a nap. I could go through a thousand permutations of how all these things interact with one another. Like you said, that is one of the great benefits of the way we do the integrated care here is, the vast majority of people, they don't need, like weekly therapy, hour-long sessions or anything, but they might need to come in once or twice, and chat with the BHC for 20, 30 minutes, kind of review some of this very normal stress, worry, etc. And just kind of come up with a little action plan to get back on track in those ways that you just described. And that may be all they need, and that's fine, and then maybe they're good for a week, a year, 6 months, whatever. And then if they feel like they're, kind of waning again, and that waxing and waning, come in, get another little booster like that. But yeah, it all absolutely is connected in so many ways.
Fantastic. Well, so let's say I am here for my annual visit and I'm finding that some of my behavioral issues are probably contributing to my overall health.
Mhm.
How, like you mentioned that you can be seen probably within 20 minutes.
Mhm.
Is that just a very informal conversation? Is that something? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we try to work with whatever, wherever you're at, so there are times when, a patient kind of needs to go, or I don't have enough time because I already have a patient waiting, and I may just take 5 minutes with a person, or I may get that full 20, 30 minutes, visit with the person. In terms of how, when you say informal, I guess, like I said, we meet the patient where they are. So generally speaking, a visit, I'm going to start by just getting like a little snapshot of the person's life before I've even really talked about the problem per se. Just the day to day, who's in their life, what do they do with their time? What are they interested in? That gives me that context. And then, more than half the time, I already kind of know what the quote problem is before we even get there, just from that context. So from there, we can do kind of any number of things. Sometimes just talking it out a little bit, the person kind of figures out for themselves, just talking out loud, they kind of know what they want to do next. Sometimes I'm just kind of educating them on some things, like I was doing a second ago about kind of the normalizing, the validating of, struggle and things. And that's really all the person needs to hear. In fact, I joke all the time that, I spent all these years going to school, and the number one thing that seems to be the most helpful for the most people is just saying, hey, wow, it sounds like you have a lot of really good reasons to be stressed right now. There's not anything wrong with you. You're not a crazy person. This is a normal reaction to what's going on. That seems to be what helps people more than anything, honestly. But that being said, we may also do some really kind of concrete action planning. I may teach a skill that they're going to go practice, or we may problem solve some issue and they're going to go try it out. It can take so many different forms. I mean, it really just is a matter of what is that person looking for? What do they feel like is going to help them, kind of move in the direction they want to move. So
I think it's having that trusted person to talk to, and that's kind of maybe kind of has that outside perspective of their life, because it is hard to have those tough conversations with some people that might be contributing to that stress in our lives.
100%. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I will tell you, since COVID has kind of become a big problem for everybody, I am doing so much more of what we call systems work. But all that really means is I'm seeing tons of couples, tons of parent and child, where it's not just the individual coming in with their individual issue, but the problem is kind of in that space between, so to speak, relationships. That being said, a lot of times people would like to get that person to come in but can't, or does not want that person coming in and needs to kind of talk to someone else about, like, what do I do about this? Can I do anything about this? So yeah, I think that's kind of where we come in. And it's another great benefit of doing things in this integrated care model where, I may be new to them. They may not know me, but they, know and trust their primary care provider. And that trust can kind of like rub off on me if the PCP is, the primary care provider is kind of saying, hey, I think you should talk to Dr. Brunner. I'm able to get in there with a little bit of that kind of rapport already in place. And it's just another thing that enables us to kind of get to some moving more quickly.
Fantastic. Again, I am always blown away by all that you guys do here at HealthSource, and things that, from before when I was a patient at another healthcare provider, this seems so natural. It seems like such a natural fit that I just find it so rewarding that we are able to do that for our patients.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of people feel that way once they experience it, that just like, oh, this makes perfect sense. And, it is really catching on. You're right. Doing this model of care is still relatively new in a lot of places, but even in the last 5 years, it's become far, far more common. And I think a lot of people are realizing that this does make a lot of sense, and it just, works. So.
Absolutely. I think it's very exciting for our patients and even our staff. Like I know you've been very beneficial to our staff. You've done some mindfulness techniques during the beginning of COVID when we were stressed out.
Oh yeah.
You've done, I'm sure you are a sounding board here at your office and your teammates in the offices that they serve. And then I'm just trying to tie this back into Men's Health Month a little bit.
Yeah.
Of what are maybe some techniques that you wish that we would all kind of take home with us in the stress of the world right now?
You know, it seems pretty simple and basic, but I think if I could just pick one thing, it would really just be reflection. It would really just be kind of tuning in. Our natural, like all humans, all life forms, actually, the kind of go-to coping strategy is to avoid, to ignore, to get away from, run away from, right? And in humans with our amazing, kind of cognitive functions, that's not just physically running away from threats, that's also trying to run away from our own thoughts, feelings, memories. And that makes perfect sense, but it often causes us lots of trouble. So, if there were one simple thing that I would like people to be able to do is just doing that tuning in more, kind of recognizing what's going on in my mind. What are the things I'm thinking? What are the things I'm feeling, even if I don't necessarily like them? And then how does that kind of lead me to behave, basically? Again, most often, if someone can recognize, oh, I'm feeling this way because of these things happening, instead of just I'm messed up or something like that, all by itself, that can make a big difference for a lot of people.
Absolutely. And I will just personal experience, COVID has been a double-edged sword. I've had all this open free time, or free time as you want to say, and it's kind of not given me that opportunity to run or to maybe fill my schedule with things that I would avoid these things with. So it's giving me that opportunity to reflect. And I think that can be the case for some. So while you might have extra stresses and extra things in your life, this might be that perfect opportunity to kind of carve out some time to reflect and really look into those things.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I do think it can be a double-edged sword, because for some people, they have had that opportunity in a way that's been helpful for them. I've also seen a lot of people who, because they don't have as much going on, they're able to go out and distract and avoid in the ways that normally they would. There's stuff that's catching up to them, basically. And I have a lot of patients, for example, who are coming in kind of talking to me about trauma that's happened to them for kind of like the first time, and what I think I'm seeing there is that people's kind of their go-to strategies for like not thinking about that and just kind of pushing through, their life has been so disrupted that they don't have those strategies, that routine, that structure available to them anymore, and or all of this stress is kind of triggering memories and things. So it can be a double-edged sword. But and if you find that you're more on that side of things, where the ability to reflect, the opportunity to reflect is actually kind of causing you trouble rather than being helpful, that would be a great reason to come talk to us, or to anybody out in the community that can provide a little professional help for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that's kind of a great segue of you guys have done a really great job pivoting throughout COVID to really respond in real time. So can you tell us a little bit about what a virtual appointment might look like?
Yeah. So we do our visits through Zoom. So it's a pretty easily accessible app. You can, most people just do it on their phone, although every once in a while I'll have someone on a computer. We are, when we did only in person, we were only seeing patients that were at our office where we're physically present, but we now will do these telehealth visits for any health source patient, even if you don't have a BHC in your actual office. So a lot of times your primary care provider will recommend it, although if you ask, they're always going to say, hey, great idea. Basically, it's just a matter of, we get you on the schedule, and usually someone from our front desk staff will call, 30 minutes or so beforehand, just to make sure you've remembered the visit, that you're still able to do it. And then we will call you around that time of the visit, and we'll help you get connected to Zoom. And from there, it really, felt weird at first, but it's really not that different from any other visits. I would say the biggest difference is just instead of me being able to walk right out and talk to your primary care provider to fill them in and let them know if there's anything I think might be helpful that they could do for you. Now I may be calling your primary care provider or just shooting them a message and through the computer or something like that. And it's working out pretty well. So.
That is awesome. And again, just removing those barriers and
Mhm.
increasing that access, like you mentioned earlier. So
Yeah.
I just think that integrated model is just very unique and just such a value add for Health Source of Ohio. All right, Dr. Brunner, as we kind of conclude our interview, I always like to give people the opportunity to share 3 of their top things that they wish folks knew.
Oh,
Not to
boy.
put you on the spot, but this can be about mental health, this can be about integrated care, or even just men's health.
Wow. Okay. Well, I've kind of already hit on a couple of my biggest things, just I'll reiterate the one, which is that the vast majority of the time, whatever you're struggling with, you probably have good reasons for it. And by nature, our minds tend to be more self-critical. So you may be beating yourself up a lot, thinking that it's just silly, you just need to get over it. Other people may be telling you that, and they may mean well. They probably do mean well. But again, this is all of us have this tendency to kind of think this way. So just having that ability to normalize for yourself and validate, oh, wow, like I do kind of have a lot going on. This makes a lot of sense that I feel this way, and just giving yourself a little grace, a little compassion, and recognizing that everybody else is in the same boat as well. That's probably one of my biggest things right there. Another one coming to my mind now, another real simple thing is kind of something that you mentioned earlier, Jen, that just all those really basic things of sleep, exercise, eating. In times of stress, we tend to, that stuff can kind of get out of whack and kind of fall away. And we don't really realize the extent to which it was making us resilient to stress. We tend to treat things as humans, another thing humans do. We tend to respond to everything like it's kind of an emergency type thing where it's kind of a crisis, that's short, brief. We kind of deal with it and then it's gone. And when things are not that way, for example, when there's a pandemic that's lasted for 18 months or 2 years, whatever it's been now, that's ongoing, and we kind of respond by staying up late to get our work in, or to skip meals, all this kind of stuff. That would make sense if it was something that was going to be a day or 2 days or even a week. It's not going to go as well when something's ongoing. So those things seem just kind of, they don't seem as important as they are, just put it that way. Getting your rest, spending time with the people you care about, however you can, if there's restrictions and stuff, just so important. So I guess the third thing then, I'll dovetail from that. Another kind of things humans do, we struggle with kind of being in the middle. We tend to have kind of black and white in the way we think. We tend to go to extremes a lot. So another big example of that that I think is really prominent right now is if you can't do all the things you'd like to do or want to do the way that you normally would do them or would like to do them, it can be hard to be able to think, well, I can't do this thing the way I'd like, but I could do this. We tend to just think, well, I can't do anything then. And again, that's a natural thing that we just kind of fall into, don't even realize it. So kind of looking for that and kind of thinking, being able to go in the middle and say, well, this is what I really want. I don't like that I can't do that or have that. And it's fine that I feel that way. And at the same time, what could I do that's maybe not as good, but better than nothing? That can be really helpful just to kind of break you out of that kind of there's no solution mindset and just get you being creative again. So
absolutely. I think this has been a really great conversation. Again, it's natural, but it's nice to be reminded of this stuff on a very regular basis.
Yes.
So the more that we can have these conversations with our PCPs, with our behavioral health consultants, and even just the regular people in our everyday lives, I think the better. So I am just so thankful that you are here at Health Source to provide this type of care to our patients.
Yeah.
And I thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. Anytime.
All right, awesome.
Yeah. Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Brunner, for sharing such important information about mental health. It's not only important during Men's Health Month, but we do like to raise awareness as much as we can about removing that stigma and really making it a priority. We want to thank you guys for listening. We ask that you take a moment and share this episode with the men who matter most in your life. And hopefully we'll have some more episodes to share later this month from our residents and other clinicians. If you take anything away from our men's health episodes, I hope it's how important it is to schedule your annual wellness visits. Whether you're male or female, it is so important that we have these routine visits with our clinicians. It gives us an opportunity to address the issues early on and build trusted relationships with our care providers. So having those quote unquote awkward conversations aren't so difficult. We invite you and the men in your life to schedule an appointment with HealthSource of Ohio today. And last but certainly not least, we always want to thank our listeners. I hope that you've enjoyed our time together and that you'll take some time to tell the men in your life how much they mean to you, not just during Men's Health Month, but each and every day. We hope you'll tune in again for our next episode and be sure to follow HealthSource of Ohio on all of our social media platforms and subscribe to the More Than Medicine podcast on your favorite podcast app. And until next time, please remember, together we can create healthier, happier communities, one episode at a time.